What if I told you that true power isn't found in how much you push, chase, or prove, but in how effortlessly you pull everything to you? Because the most magnetic women don't run after anything, everything comes to them. My name is Soraya Cofie, and welcome back to another episode of my monologues and musings on my channel, the Soraya Cofie Show, where I share soul led feminine inspiration to empower women to self love, self worth, high value, awakening of consciousness in life, love, and leadership. Today, I'm being called to talk about the simple, obvious, singularly powerful, yet very widely underrated gift that has shaped my life in ways unimaginable: the gift of femininity. And I am not referring to the watered down version we've been told to perform, nor am I referring to the passive image sold to us as quiet compliance, nor is it all about lipstick or lace, although both can elevate the natural allure and charm of femininity. However, I am talking about femininity that commands rooms without needing to be too loud, that transforms spaces simply by being present, that radiates certainty, grace, magnetism. I have been a woman all my life, undoubtedly, exquisitely, deeply so. But what that means, what it feels like, lives like, leads like, loves like, has evolved, expanded, peeled back, and reshaped itself again and again. For over 2 decades, I have led, loved, and lived through the unwavering essence of my femininity. It has been my power, my softness, my gift, my wisdom, my secret. And yet, I see so many women today questioning it, suppressing it, wrestling against its truth because the world has told them that hustle is more valuable than flow, that to be strong, they must be hard, that softness makes them weak. But I am here to tell you, femininity is one of the greatest forces on this earth. Not just as an energy, but a present, a way of being, a way of leading, a way of commanding without force. And when a woman fully steps into it, without hesitation, without dilution, she becomes unstoppable. Over 2 decades, I have lived, loved, and led through the full expression of my femininity. And today, as I step into new phases of expansion, reflection, and self mastery, I find myself drawn deeper into understanding its essence, its potency, and its place in true power. Let me take you back to a moment in my own life, say about a decade and a half ago, a time when, much like many women, I thought success meant control. I thought power meant perfection. I believed that to be seen, I had to prove. I woke up every morning at 4 a.m., structured my entire life around productivity, rigid lines, and never missed a beat. I built something quite extraordinary, something people respected, admired, and even feared in its precision and professionalism. Now, at 39, I find myself standing in the middle of a life that has been full, opulent, powerful, and yet soft. I have built a business. I have mothered two radiant daughters into womanhood. I've spoken in rooms filled with power suits and silence, and I've commanded attention not with volume, but with presence. I have felt love. I've chosen solitude. I've cried over joy and prayed over grief. Even as a younger woman, I felt it. The grace in my voice, the softness in how I entered rooms, the sensuality that wasn't a performance, it was an essence. Women would ask me, "What is it about you?" And for a long time, I did not have the language for it. Now I do. It was my femininity, activated, embodied, radiant. And right now, I feel called to intuitively share this with you. Although I must admit, through my own awakening, I am also being reintroduced to my own reclamation of this feminine power. Not the kind that's measured in applause or revenue, not even the kind that comes from doing it all right, but the kind that lives in my hips, the kind that speaks through my eyes before my mouth ever opens, the kind that moves like honey and lightning, the kind that is feminine, deeply divine, sovereignly feminine. Very early on in life and in adulthood and in my career all throughout, I started asking different questions. What if power is not about control, but rather about presence? What if magnetism is not about doing more, but about being more? And this realization, this early subtle layer of awakening shifted everything for me. I began leading differently, moving differently, allowing instead of forcing, receiving instead of chasing. And it drew me into the flow of alignment. Things came to me, clients, opportunities, relationship, collaborations, miracles, because I had stepped fully into the truth of feminine power. It attracts. It really does not chase. It does not demand. It simply is. So let me begin by saying femininity, it isn't submission. It isn't decoration. It is presence. It is power with rather than power over. It is magnetism that doesn't chase. It is stillness that moves the world. For far too long, femininity has been misunderstood as fragile, ornamental, or second class, especially by women who are trying to make it. And I get it. I've been that woman. I've stood in meeting rooms where decisiveness was mistaken for masculinity and softness was mistaken for fragility. I've wielded my mind like a sword when it was absolutely necessary. I built a legacy that demanded it, but that was never the full story. My feminine power was never absent. It was simply layered, sacred, seasoned, sometimes quiet. The truth is, my feminine nature wasn't separate from my success. It was the source of it. Now, let's talk about the myths, the misconceptions that have held women back from embracing their true feminine power and which has kept us quite small. Myth number one, femininity is weak. Absolutely not. Softness isn't weakness, it's adaptability, intuition, grace. Water is soft, and yet it carves through mountains. Energy is invisible, and yet it powers the world. Myth number two, femininity is passive. Wrong. The feminine is in motion. It flows with precision. It doesn't need to push because it pulls. It doesn't need to speak loudly because its presence speaks first. Myth number three, femininity doesn't belong in business or leadership. False. Feminine leadership doesn't exclude ambition, it elevates it. It doesn't chase success by burning you out. It makes success desire to sit at her table. I call feminine leadership soil-led leadership. Feminine leadership begins in the dark, fertile ground. It's unseen, but it's essential. It's intuitive, emotional, cyclical, nourishing. Masculine energy, it seeks structure, direction, control. Feminine energy, it senses, flows, magnetizes. And we do need both. Yes, the masculine in me protects the vision. It builds boundaries. It gets things done. But the feminine in me, she is why there's anything worth protecting at all. She calls women home. She mothers from the soul. She builds businesses that don't just scale, they serve. She knows that pleasure is holy and nourishment is non negotiable. She is the foundation. Truth is, women carry both masculine and feminine energies. We embody both, our souls hold both, and there's value in knowing how to activate our masculine energy when it's needed. But what many women do, especially in those leadership or entrepreneurial roles, is that they're drawn to the masculine until it overtakes their essence, until their femininity is buried under hard edges, exhaustion, control. Femininity is not meant to be erased. It is meant to be balanced. Our challenge, our highest calling, is learning to honor our softness without compromising our power. How did I cultivate feminine power every day? For decades, women, both those near me and those watching from afar, have asked me how I embody this so effortlessly, how I hold presence, how I activate femininity in a way that is magnetic, undeniable, and felt in every interaction. And here's how. One, I trust my intuition absolutely. I listen. I let myself know without needing permission. Two, I embrace my softness unapologetically. Soft power is true power. Three, I let myself receive. The feminine energy is an open vessel. It does not grasp, it allows. Four, I lead with presence and not with force. Presence commands more than pressure ever will. So when I walk in, I don't announce, I arrive. Five, I move with magnetism, not chase. I do the inner work, so what's meant for me finds me, and what is meant for me comes to me because I am truly aligned. You see, feminine power is not something we learn. It's something that we remember. It's already in us, waiting to be activated. Over the last 20 years, my femininity has moved through every single corner of my life. In love, it let me surrender, connect, receive, magnetize. In motherhood, it gave me the patience to raise intuitive daughters with grace and not pressure. In business, it gave me quiet confidence, never needing to perform, only to embody. Now, other women noticed, whispered, admired, and I've come to the realization that it's because they see themselves in me, the parts of themselves that they've long forgotten, that they've dimmed, the softness they were told was too much or not enough. What they're seeing from me is permission. And now, in this season of my own soul growth, I'm making even more room for that feminine essence to lead, to soften without shrinking, to expand without forcing, to surrender and gain alignment. Because the feminine doesn't lose when she surrenders. At this point in my own life, I don't just want to be feminine. I want to be sovereign in my own femininity. I want to take up space with grace and not aggression. I want my daughters to know their softness is not a liability, it's a legacy. I want women, high value, high impact, high frequency women to come home to their feminine on purpose, to lead in lace and gold and truth, to walk in a room and shift the air without a word, to stop proving and to start being, to seduce instead of chasing it. Now, to every woman watching this, I invite you to reflect. Have you been operating from hustle when you should have been flowing? Have you been chasing when you should have been allowing? Have you been silencing your softness when it is the very thing that makes you formidable? It is time. Time to return to the gifts of our femininity, to our presence, our intuition, our power, to move with certainty, to lead with grace, to stop forcing and instead become the force. Femininity is not something you must learn. It is something already within you, waiting to be activated, waiting to be owned. And when you step into it fully, unapologetically, you become magnetic, powerful, undeniable. You do not need to be louder, need to be more aligned. And that is power. If this spoke to something deep within you, don't just watch and walk away. Leave a comment. Leave a comment below sharing your own journey with feminine power. What are you reclaiming? What are you remembering? And if you're ready to embody this energy in your daily life, please subscribe and join me for more monologues and soulful reflections each week. You can also connect with me on Instagram and TikTok at my handle at the Soraya Cofie Show for weekly doses of divine feminine wisdom. Because this isn't just a conversation, it's a movement, a remembrance, a return, and I want you to be a part of it. with all the softness of storm and the power of petal. Until next time.